My guest today is one of the UK Christian community's most loved artists, producing some really incredible music that recently
Mm.
won her a Premier Gospel Award and to be nominated for several others, dropping her debut album In Full Bloom not too long ago. And I'm guessing she has more exciting projects on the way, which I'm very excited about. It is, of course, Sharyn. Welcome.
Hi, Cass. Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
I'm happy that you're here because it's an exciting reason. Gospel Heritage Month is upon us, and we're gonna get onto that project. But I first wanted to ask you a few questions about you and
hmm
sound. And so, one thing I always like to ask artists is if you was to describe your sound or you to someone that's just literally came in from the Amazon rainforest, they don't know who you are, and they're thinking, okay, who is this person? How would you describe your music to them?
Wow. I would describe it as soulful, deep, and meaningful.
Mm.
That's what I would say with an eccentric vibe. Eccentric flair.
You see, that
Yeah, because
that makes it like, oh, I want to listen to that. And yes,
yeah.
it's wonderful music, man. I remember the first track I heard of yours was Broken Hearts. Was it Broken Hearts?
Oh wow, yes, that's one of my first singles that I released. It was, yeah.
And I just loved it. And I thought this is different. This is different to what in what you assume the Christian music world should be like, or Christian artists, what you assume they should make. It was amazing. So I want to know a bit about your journey that's kind of led to being on this really amazing album. Can you talk us through that so far? So from when you first
Yeah.
started to make music to now.
Wow, what a journey it has been. I would say when I first started making music, I felt it was more out of like obedience. I felt like I had songs to share with the world, you know? And I remember when I first played my song Beautiful Savior, this is way back in like 2017, 18, to my friends at university. They're like, you need to put the song out there. People need to hear this. And it ended up turning into a whole project, a whole EP. But from then, I would say until like I would say 2019 and 2020 was me, I think, just discovering myself as an artist. It was me figuring out because it's almost like I just started this thing and I'm like, oh, I think I should take this a bit more seriously now. I think sometimes when people do something, they have a bit more intention. But for me, it was purely what I felt led to do. But then, like I said, 2021 with my album In Full Bloom, I felt like I really wanted to be a bit more intentional and just incorporate a bit more artistry into everything that I've been doing. And so I've just been more intentional with the sounds, with the producers I've worked with, with the lyrics, trying to dive a bit deeper, as well as always, like I say, for me, my go-to songs are always going to be the scripture-based songs. I end up with my track Psalm 91, and so I would say like now it's just this journey of what does it mean to be obedient, but also incorporate artistry into that obedience. Like how do I be the best singer, the best musician, the best like instrument I can be, as well as making sure that like I just stay true to the call.
Wow. You know what I really love about watching you do what you do, because it's really great when you get to see an artist develop and just work themselves out
Yeah,
along the way. So I remember you tweeted something, I want to say maybe at the start of this year, I think. It feels like it was yesterday, but
yeah,
so fast. And you said, you're going to take your time and not just put anything out too fast, um, because you want to work it out. And it's great just watching you do that. And, you drop your album and then you're on this another thing. And it's great just to watch it happen, watch the journey.
thank you.
Because I think it's something that a lot of people can relate to, just working yourself out and not knowing everything at the moment and just saying, you know what, let me just be me. Like out.
Yeah, because yeah, it's so easy to get sucked into this vacuum of consistently having to drop things or do something, but you don't actually take a minute to actually decide, like actually ask yourself or ask God, like, what should I actually be doing? What should I actually be releasing? And I think because it's a numbers game at the end of the day, right? It's so easy to feel like, or if I don't release any music, my stats are gonna drop, or if I release tickets, people aren't gonna come to a show. But like people appreciate it more when you release your best work. And if that takes you like 6 months, if that takes you 5 years, like it's actually okay. And that's something that I've actually learned. It's like it's okay to take your time to make sure you're the best version of yourself as you can be.
How did you learn that lesson? Because a lot of people, that's a very hard lesson to learn, and to not get caught up in the whole numbers thing and to think, I need to post and what's it called, produce music every week, and how did you
Yeah.
work that out in yourself?
I unfortunately didn't have to work it out. My body worked it out for me.
Okay.
I was severely burnt out and very sick after I released my album. Like when my body said no, like it was a no-go. And then I caught COVID. So all of these post-album plans that we had, because like I said, I released my album like in the second half of the pandemic. So like my body literally was just like, yeah, it's time to rest. And I think like it's an unfortunate way to learn that, but it was a lesson in and of itself, and I'm grateful for it. And so I just pray that like with people that you don't have to reach a level of burnout or sickness or have a bereavement for you to realize that like, oh, I need to take some time to make sure that I'm being authentic and true, and I'm taking my time with everything. So
Yeah,
yeah.
that's a big lesson. That's a big lesson. Those things can really shock you into like a wake
Yeah.
up, or they really make you just say,
Yeah.
oh, okay, wait, life, it can slow down. It's okay. Um, what are some of the highs of your journey so far, would you say?
Wow, I would say so far the highs as like has been like the collaborations. I think like for me, like working with the people that I've worked with on my project. So with my album, when I had Triple O, he's one of like I would say the generals when it comes to Christian hip hop and rap in the UK. So to work alongside him, to work alongside my sis Asha Elia, and in my earlier stages of my career, working with T Babs and Mirizion by my side, that's what really I think allowed my name to be known in a more worldwide audience rather than just being here in the UK. But then I'll say like the second highlight for me has been like I also going to the Premier Gospel Awards the two times that I went, because the first time when I went in 2019, I was nominated for Best Newcomer. And I remember I only released at that time, I only released two singles. And I was just like, what? Like I've literally been releasing music for like 4 or 5 months at the time, and my EP wasn't even out yet. And I was like, God, like what an honor this is. And then fast forward to then, because he didn't have any award ceremonies until 2022, and then being nominated for best album and best vocalist, and then winning, I was completely blown away because I was like, it was a very full circle moment for me. I think it was again that affirmation that I've been on the right track. The way that I started and the way that where I'm going. That for me was a huge highlight. And then walking alongside these greats and these giants, and like for me, I was so speechless on the day. I couldn't even execute the things that I wanted to say, but. I remember I saw Lady T, and I remember saying recently, I was like, if I was to read you my speech again, I would say if it wasn't for her and also Larissa Andrews back in the day, she had a show on Premier Gospel called Unsigned, and they really championed and pushed my music. And I would say if it wasn't for them and so many of these other platforms, I wouldn't have the engagement that I have today, which means I wouldn't be at the place where I'm at today. So I'm truly grateful for them, for yourself as well, and so many of the other Premier Gospel presenters who give us as artists the opportunity to share our music and for other people to hear it around the world. So yeah, definitely been a highlight.
That's beautiful to hear, man. I remember your speech and you genuinely seemed very shocked. Like
I wasn't expecting it. I
it was
wasn't.
it was such an authentic moment because it was real. You were just like, what? Like, but it was great, and I'm happy that you won. I was definitely batting for you, man. I'm not gonna lie. So all of that has kind of led you to where we are now, which is the Gospel Heritage Month compilation album. Can you describe the feeling when you first got the email or the call from someone somewhere saying, right, we want you on?
Yeah. I remember when I got the call, I was overwhelmed with emotion. I think again, there are things that happen in our lives, and like again, you mentioned the tweet. I was definitely taking my time. Me and my producers were doing a lot of demos, so we're just making music, but not releasing it, right? So when I got this like call, it was like again, like I was just so overwhelmed, and it was a confirmation that I was going in the right track. Because when they said that like the turnaround time, we were ready. We had music waiting, but we were just obviously waiting for the right opportunity. So yeah, I was just so honored as well. I was overwhelmed and honored. That's how I was feeling when I got the call.
Yeah, because you know what, there's so many incredible people on the album, but there's so many people that could have been on it as well. So
Yes.
it must be a massive honor that they've looked at the industry and they've thought, you know what, it's a tough thing to, I guess, pick who's gonna make up this album for such a monumental time. So it is an honor, man. It really is. Your single, When Love Comes, It's
Yeah.
I would describe it as quite a feel-good worship track. It's quite,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a feel-good worship track. You kind of listen to it and the words are very edifying. And,
Yeah.
how did that come together? Why did you decide to go in that direction?
Yeah, I would say when I wrote the track, I really just wanted to speak about, how Jesus was kind of was with us from the beginning of time. I think sometimes, when we listen to a lot of Christian music, it's very much kind of like based on how we're feeling and like about changing our mood and keeping our eyes fixed on Jesus. But I really wanted to write a track that depicts the painting of what happens when Jesus comes into our lives, and not just a particular mood. It's about when love comes into our life, everything we've been looking, waiting, hoping, and praying for, that's when it comes. And in terms of just the sound itself, like I'm like very much, I've been listening to a lot of Janet Jackson recently as well. I don't know if
Oh
anyone,
yeah.
if you watched the documentary. When
No.
the documentary came out, I was so inspired. I was just like, I'm gonna take it back to that like kind of nostalgic 90s, 80s R&B, even Michael as well. And then I was just so like just inspired, I think, about the sounds of even like early I would say 90s UK R&B artists, from Craig David to Gabrielle. And so I was like, I really wanted just to write a track that kind of incorporated those kind of sounds and that mood. So yeah.
Yeah, I think you did that really, really well. It's a really great track. Definitely deserves to be on the album. So yes, we're happy about that. So we're gonna get on to where we can stream the album. But first, so Gospel Heritage Month, it's a new thing in the UK. We're
Yes.
hoping it's gonna be from this. Well, no, not hoping. It will be a big thing from this year forward. What
Yeah.
do you hope or want to see from this month every year to celebrate gospel music?
I just want to see people just coming together and really celebrating gospel music, especially gospel music here from the UK. I think it's been something that's been celebrated in the US, but this album in particular, it just captures, I think, for me, the sound of the UK, the sound of Africa, the sound of the Caribbean. And I think it's so great for us as to champion our own, really, to push our own, and not just here, but also overseas. So I really want to see not only just more music being released, but more events. When we had the launch event, that was incredible scenes. Shout out to Bishop John Francis. He got everybody up on their feet. Everybody was laughing. Everybody was having a good time. Everybody was praising, and that's what I want to see. I want to see more events like that.
Yes, I kind of think it's going to be something like the way I envision it. You know how you have Pride, for example, and everyone's just doing all these
Yes,
stuff for the month, and everyone's celebrating that thing, or you have just these months, and the whole country is just involved in it, and everyone's
yeah,
there. That's how I see it. So we gotta make that.
yeah. 1000%, because there's so much history. I think even spending the day with the other artists and learning about their backstory, and it's like I've been rinsing out Raymond and Co, by the way, because Isaiah Raymond is a legend, and I think I knew of a few of their songs, but even this morning I was rinsing out their album, and I think there's so much history and so much legacy that even a lot of people don't even know about, and it'll be even good for us just to even remember, and just to kind of to go back in time to to the UK legends of old, and also to celebrate new acts as well. So I think we've got something great coming our way with this.
Yes, and I believe that you are part of the next generation. So, like I said, to watch it all
Thank
happen,
you.
we're kind of watching history happen, and it's a great thing because I guess in 20 years' time, people are going to be like, "Oh my gosh, I'm rinsing Sharyn," and to know the
Yeah.
history, So
Yeah, wow.
they're loving it, man. So the album we can stream it on Apple Music.
That's yeah. So it's a playlist. So it's like so it's on Apple Music and Spotify, but also you can get the singles on all streaming platforms. But the project itself is available for streaming as a compilation on Apple Music and Spotify.
Wonderful. And where can we find you? So if people are listening to this and they're thinking, I want to keep in touch with Sharyn and watch your journey, where are you at?
I am everywhere on social media, just not TikTok. So you can find me. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So it's at Sharyn Official. So SHARYN Official on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube as well. So yeah, and all my music is under my name, Sharyn, SHARYN. So yeah.
Yes. Thank you, Sharyn, for taking the time out. It's been an absolute pleasure. Have a lovely day.
You too.